Solo Leveling Episode 4 made it feel like we're watching a brand new protagonist in action. The world's weakest hunter that couldn't even stand up to a goblin without getting hurt in Episode 1 ended Episode 3 by taking out a horde of them. He was greeted by a steel-fanged lichen at the end, and to say that he settled things with that furry Scarlet Iron Hound would be an underestimated. It was a one-sided slaughter. He ended the episode by taking out not one but two dungeon bosses, a feat that was unimaginable for him in the first episode, and it's all thanks to the magical system Sung Jinwoo has acquired. This real-life RPG-esque leveling up system makes Jinwoo the most unique hunter in history. How? Well, it's simple. It gives him powers that no one else in the world can attain. But what are those powers? And is Jinwoo still an E-rank hunter by the end of Episode 4? We'll explore all that and more in this video. But before we do that, we have a small request. If you enjoy our content, please give this video a massive thumbs up, share it with your friends, and smash that subscribe button with the notification bell turned to all while you're at it. It helps us create the content that you love and bring in more marvelous viewers like you. Now, on to the video. How powerful was Sung Jinwoo before entering the double dungeon? How did he end up becoming a player? The trope of having a weak main character build up their strength from the lower end of the spectrum is a tried and tested one in the world of fiction. The most notable example we can think of from the island of anime is Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki was a troublemaker growing up who couldn't even perform the most basic techniques that would qualify him as a ninja. But where Naruto grew into the strongest ninja in the world by the end of his story through hard work and harder experiences, Sung Jinwoo has managed to find a cheat code of sorts. At the start of Solo Leveling, Jinwoo is lowest ranked, a hunter in all of Korea. His power level is so pathetic, he's called the world's weakest hunter. The way power systems in Solo Leveling work is based on mana. If you've seen our previous video on Jinwoo's true identity, which you really should if you haven't yet, you will know that hunters in this series receive their powers after a mana awakening. Once that happens, that's usually it, and depending on how much mana power you awakened, you're assigned a rank. There's a fancy black ball hooked up to a machine, which you'll see soon enough, we imagine, that determines an individual's mana output and helps assort them. Kind of like the sorting hat, if you think about it. When Jinwoo touched the sorting orb the first time, his output was so low he barely qualified to become a hunter. There are 6 ranks for hunters the world over, ranging from E to S in ascending order, with a separate class for people so strong they're considered national level. But even within these rankings, there are E pluses and A minuses. Well, Jinwoo was a double E minus because of how low his mana output was. He could barely afford weaponry and has been hospitalized many times during his time as a hunter, all while trying to put his sister through school and shouldering her mom's eternal slumber treatment. Entering the double dungeon was a do-or-die decision for him, even though he knew he was terribly prepared for what came next. Not to mention, he had just been healed from a goblin-inflicted stab wound. Turns out Jinwoo was woefully unprepared for the horrors of the Karthanon temple because he ended up dying. But before his death, he proved that he was much more than his rank by helping the few members of the raid party that managed to get out alive survive. As someone who had been at death's door numerous times, Jinwoo knew how to survive almost on instinct. He could pick out danger as if from thin air, and his logical reasoning was top-notch. In that double dungeon, Jinwoo displayed something he thought himself incapable of being: unparalleled courage. He not only cut down the casualty rate from a definite 100% to around 50%, he also took one for the team, a heroic act he ended up regretting because, as we told you earlier, Jinwoo died in that double dungeon regardless. He had lost one of his legs earlier, and as he was being thrashed to death, he bitterly cursed his own powerlessness. His dying body was flung upon the altar and sacrificed, but just before that could happen, a screen popped up in front of Jinwoo's eyes and told him he had been selected as a player. He had apparently completed a quest called Courage of the Weak and was now eligible to play this ethereal game, but he had to accept quick. Otherwise, his heart would stop within 0.02 seconds. You didn't hear us wrong there. We did say 0.02 seconds. That isn't much of a choice if you ask us, but irrespective of our opinion on the matter, Jinwoo did accept, and he unknowingly opened the doors to a world that would change his life forever. offer. You see, while it seems like he accepted an offer, the truth is the system chose him, and the reason is his courage. The task that he completed, Courage of the Week, it was specifically meant to test his resolve in a situation like that. Once he proved himself worthy, the system made itself known to him, and Jinwoo woke up in a hospital 3 days later with a headache, no memory of how he actually survived. But once he saw that blue screen pop up, he put 2 and 2 together and got to work on leveling up, after a failed trip to the punishment zone, of course. But speaking of the punishment zone, let's now talk about the system itself. What is the system and how does it work? A detailed explanation. Episode 3 of Solo Leveling gave us a pretty comprehensive look at what the system is. If the world of Solo Leveling runs on mana, think of the system as a hack code to scaling up in a field that technically cannot be scaled. When it comes to mana, once you've awakened, that's pretty much it. In some rare cases, there are double awakenings, where a person can jump up a few ranks, but that's more of a phenomenon than a result. What Jinwoo can do is obtain tangible results with respect to his growth as a hunter, thanks to the system, which is just as crazy as it sounds to you. The first and most basic function of the system is to help its player level up. How does it do that? Well, there are many ways to go about it. The first is the daily quest log. Like an online RPG game, the system sends Jinwoo a set of daily physical conditioning quests, which involve things like doing a 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, as well as running 10 kilometers. If he achieves these goals, he receives rewards like a full recovery of all his stats, his health and mana bars reset, and his fatigue is negated. He also gets a random loot box with items that could be used in dungeons and the real world, as well as 3 ability points. Jinwoo can invest these ability points into 5 categories: strength, agility, perception, intelligence, and vitality. By pooling points into these categories, Jinwoo can increase his base stats to insane levels. For example, after investing quite a few points into strength, Jinwoo's body felt lighter to him. Did he lose weight? No, he just got stronger. If he invests in agility, he gains speed and dexterity. If he invests in perception, his senses sharpen. If he invests in intelligence, his mental capacity and faculties expand. You get the idea. He has access to an inventory where he can store all the items he gets while he is a player of the system. This ranges from supplies like food and water to weapons and magical artifacts that can boost his stats and skills. And speaking of skills, he also has a skills section where the system tracks Jinwoo's active and passive skills. Passive skills like wisdom have a passive effect on Jinwoo's overall stats, as the name suggests, whereas active skills boost his ability to perform a certain act. Spoiler alert for things here on out, but for example, once Jinwoo becomes fast enough using the system's training program, he unlocks the active skill sprint. By using this, he can boost his speed mid-battle, blitz his opponents, and catch them off guard within milliseconds. The system provides Jinwoo abilities based on his performance in battles as the series progresses, with some of his later powers turning him into a one-man unit unto himself. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, this whole system thing sounds really useful, especially if it affects real life, but the hand that gives power can take it away just as easily, and this system isn't without its kinks. For starters, in exchange for helping the player boost their stats, the system demands one thing: absolute obedience. Jinwoo is responsible for performing every single task presented to him by the system without fail, because if he does fail, he will end up being sent to the punishment zone for 4 hours, where his sole objective would be to survive a giant murderous centipede monster. It's a good thing that the system rewards you for even completing your punishments, because otherwise, we're not sure how much faith Jinwoo would have put in it. Even when it tries to punish you, it gives you the tools to improve. It helps you identify the dungeon monsters you're going up against and determine how you match up to them in that moment. If their name is white, they're weaker than you. If it's orange, they're at your level. And if it's red, then it's stronger than you. It also has an in-game store where you can trade items you pick up during raids, like the Lycan's Fangs, in exchange for all kinds of exotic weapons and potions and such things. You can craft potions using the crafting table, provided you have the required ingredients. And you can also, and we're not kidding about this one, cancel out the effects of alcohol and poison on your body thanks to its effects. One of Jinwoo's passive abilities is a blessing type ability that makes him immune to all toxins. Like we said, The hand that giveth also taketh away. But speaking of hands, let's talk leveling up. Because while you might think that Jinwoo can level up by completing his daily quests, that is not the case. Jinwoo only gains XP when he defeats enemies within a dungeon, which is why he can have 20 plus points in strength and still technically be at level 1. As he beats one powerful enemy after the other, Jinwoo gains a level, which once again provides rewards similar to the daily quest, but not the same. And what makes the system feel like a true RPG is the fact that it sends off Jinwoo on random dungeon raids that seem to be specifically designed to further his progress. In episode 4, we saw him clear out the E-rank dungeon he unlocked at Hapjeong Station using the key he got from his random loot box. He then proceeded to punk every goblin and lichen in that hole, and also managing to take out a monster that was at least a high C rank all by himself. In fact, Jinwoo crushed the Swamp King Kasaka to death with his bare hands and was rewarded with one of his first signature weapons because of it. And like most good games in this world, if you invest more time in exploring it, it rewards you more. Because as Jinwoo will discover later on in the season, the system doesn't actually max out at 100 push-ups. If Jinwoo does 200 push-ups instead of 100, he gets a better reward, which is the same for every exercise in his daily quest log. If he gets a potion that can poison him but give him great armor and has a skill that's more potent at nullifying poisons of all kinds, Jinwoo would gain the net profit armor advantage of that potion. You can basically stack rewards on top of each other to get the best net outcome for you, which is the most gaming-centric dialogue we've uttered on this channel. The fact that no one but Jinwoo can see it is the cherry on top of the cake, because now none can figure out how the world's weakest hunter climbed up the ranks to the top. Pun intended. Sung Jinwoo has already climbed at least 3 ranks in the span of episode 4 itself in terms of strength as a hunter. Sung started off the episode still a shaking E ranker, but by its end he was one-shotting D rank dungeon bosses without thinking that it would work. Just by working with the system for a few days and one instant dungeon raid, Jinwoo has progressed this much, and he will only continue to grow. Unlike the other hunters whose ceiling of potential has been reached, Jinwoo is essentially limitless. As long as he can keep beating tougher monsters, he can keep leveling up. Hence the name of the series, Solo Leveling. Right now, he has to be somewhere near mid to upper B rank or even lower A rank, which is insane growth for a single dungeon raid. Imagine what will happen when he starts rushing through dungeons like he's got a checklist. That's when the real power of the system will emerge. But until then, let's just enjoy the RPG-esque shenanigans of the anime, shall we? Marvelous verdict. It's ironic that a system that was designed to turn its player into a protective shell turned out serving him so well that it turned against its own creator. The system was made by the architect of the Double Dungeon incident, and coincidentally enough, he's an architect as well, although not the kind you're probably thinking of. Anyway, that's the lowdown on how the system works and how it empowers Jinwoo. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more solo leveling content on Marvelous Anime, then pay attention because we're about to give you the keys to the kingdom. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.